Welcome back to Casting Confidential for our third season. I'm your host, Rose Rosen, and we've got such an exciting season ahead for you, filled with amazing guests, from top celebrities to some of the best casting directors in the business. Plus, we have a special surprise waiting for you at the end of each episode, so make sure you listen all the way through. I know you're gonna love it. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to thank our incredible sponsors who make this show possible: Casting Networks and Right Positive Films. Their support helps us bring you the very best of the casting world every week. Now let's hear a quick word from our sponsors. Looking to land your next big role? Casting Networks is where more high-quality roles are booked than any other casting service. With an annual membership, you'll unlock every tool you need to stand out. Unlimited headshots and reels, submission tracking, even the chance to link your socials and showcase your personal brand. On the go, the Casting Network's iOS app makes it easy to find and submit to roles anytime, anywhere. Right now, Casting Confidential listeners get $65 off an annual membership. Just use code CONFIDENTIAL at checkout or try it free for 14 days. Head to castingnetworks.com/confidential and get ready to get noticed. But hurry, this offer won't last long. Ready to take your next bold step as an artist? Shamika Wright through Right Positive Films offers coaching built on authentic, empowering, and intentional, because your true story deserves to shine. Shamika helps performers tap into their real voice, build real confidence, and move forward with clarity and purpose. Don't wait. Your next chapter is ready for you. Visit rightpositive.com. That's WRIGHT positive.com and book your coaching session with Shamika today. The right guidance can change everything.
She's casting the stars of today and helping to shape the storytellers of tomorrow. The Guideposts isn't just a class, it's a tool set for actors to live truthfully, moment to moment. Kimberly Skirm, casting director, coach, creative force, bridging the gap between preparation and opportunity. The Guideposts. Your next step starts here.
Hey guys, I'm Karina Michelle, host of Coffee with Karina, Entertainment Unfiltered, where the real Hollywood happens off the red carpet. I sit down with creatives who dare to dream big. It's fun, and yeah, it does get a little unfiltered. So grab your coffee and come and hang out. Coffee with Karina, now streaming wherever you listen to podcasts.
And with that, let's jump right into today's show.
Let's go.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Casting Confidential. I'm your host, Rose Rosen, and if you've been with us through seasons 1 and 2, you know we focused a lot on the roadmap to success, and we heard some great stories along the way. This season, we're mixing it up. We're diving deep into how actors and casting directors really connect and what those relationships look like behind the scenes. I'm excited today to have Cheryl Louden-Kubin, a casting director from the Atlanta area, with me as my co-host today, and our special guest, Pat Healy. Let me tell you a little about Pat. Pat grew up obsessed with movies in a house with 3 brothers and parents, also similarly infatuated with cinema. Early fixations included Mel Brooks and Woody Allen, as well as whatever film featured anyone from the cast of SNL or SCTV. As a teen, films like Blue Velvet, Taxi Driver, and 2001: A Space Odyssey changed the way he saw the world. He knew movies with a particular focus on acting was his calling. You know his face from movies like Cheap Thrills and Compliance, and shows like Better Call Saul and Station 19. And I actually got to cast Pat in Not Alone. And believe me, when you find an actor like him, you remember it. This season, we're all about how actors and casting directors work together, and Pat has such a cool, honest career built partly on those relationships. Super excited for this one, Pat. Welcome to Casting Confidential.
Thank you, Rose. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's great to have you here. I mean, we were just talking about, you're like the Kevin Bacon of the industry. Like everybody knows you. You've been around.
Except for Kevin Bacon, of course.
Except for Kevin Bacon. But what a delight he is. So you probably know
Yeah,
him,
now
right?
30, I've never met him, which is wild.
That's kind of
But
crazy.
yeah, I think I'm the only one. But
Which
yeah,
is
I
that?
think this is like 30 years now that, of it's about 30 years working in front of the camera anyway.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, I started in theater in 93. So yeah, I think my first like real camera jobs were maybe 94, but I think mostly 95
Incredible. I
in
mean, we're
Chicago.
kind of all right there,
Yeah.
in terms of working in the business, Cheryl, her early credit was Miami Vice, right? And of course
Wow.
mine,
Yeah.
yeah,
In
was
the
Edward
80s. Yeah, that
Scissorhands.
was the 80s.
Yeah.
1980 something. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy
Crazy.
times. Lots
Crazy.
of fun though. I kind of miss it.
I wish I'd been on Miami Vice. That's in
You
high
would have been
school stuff.
great. You would have
Ah,
been great. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, he would have been great. So you've worked with so all the great casting directors over the years. I certainly couldn't give you the list. I'm sure you might be able to, but probably not.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, those
I
people certainly are very important.
I mean, I'd really love to hear your perspective on the actor casting director relationship. What stands out to you about how those relationships have shaped your career?
Well, it's certainly different now, as we all know. Like, there isn't much of cultivating a relationship with the casting director now because we're doing things primarily on tape.
Right.
And back when I started, which was in Chicago in the early mid '90s, you'd go into a room, and oftentimes, especially with an actor who is, didn't have a lot of experience, like I didn't. Uh, you'd meet the casting director first, so that's usually the primary relationship that you develop, and that's the person who's not only you're reading for them and they're certainly gauging your skill level, but it's always about, and you can speak to this, I'm sure, like talking to the person, getting to know them. What kind of person are they? They want to go to the director and the producer with that information because that information is important when you're working with someone on long days, perhaps for months at a time. You want to know that the personality is tolerable and meshes with the rest of the crew. Um, so, it to me is always a chance. I'm sure at the beginning, and it happens now and then, I really am overthinking it and I want to impress the person, you know what I mean? And I found over the years, much like with the work, when you relax, the work is better. If you just relax and you don't overthink it and you're just yourself and that, it doesn't mean they're going to hire you. They may not like you, but you at least have been yourself. And that's who you want them you know, to see. That's who you want them to know. And they can decide whether they like that or not.
And maybe it's not about that role. It's cultivating a relationship with them for future roles as well.
Yeah, that's right. Like, for example, Ellen Lewis, who's an amazing,
Mm-hmm.
casting director, and she casts for Scorsese and has since the 80s. And I met her on a pilot that Marty was going to direct, and he had specifically requested me. So from a little tiny movie that I had done, The Innkeepers, like years earlier, and so it was for this pilot vinyl for HBO. And I had a wonderful meeting with her. I mean, we just had a great conversation. We hit it off. She's also from Chicago. And then I didn't get cast in that, but she did ended up casting me in The Post, which Steven Spielberg directed. So, I mean, I just had a meeting with Spielberg, like that was amazing. Like I got to sit and talk with him for 45 minutes. And then I got to do the movie with him. And then a few years after that, I got cast in Marty's movie in Killers of the Flower Moon. And it was really all based on that. Yes, he requested me, but like, if I'd shown up and been a weirdo or seemed like I didn't know what I was doing, I don't know that I would have gone forward in that process. But and I wasn't trying to cultivate a relationship with Ellen. I simply was just being myself, and I was thrilled to meet her. She's an incredibly accomplished person. So I just went in there and had that meeting, and we liked each other, and it's turned into, now 3 movies that she's cast me in.
Let's talk about the meeting. Let's get a little bit more granular. Was that an audition? Was it just a meeting of just talking with each other? You know, both in Ellen and Marty and Steven. Let's talk about that. So
So
our
with
viewers
Ellen, I believe that I read, but when she came in the room, she said, Marty wanted me to tell you that he loves the Innkeepers. He's seen it many times. And I was floored. I actually cried. Because that's like, you know, as you said in my intro, like his films, like at a very impressionable age, meant so much to me and still do. And so, but it was also just really relaxing. Like she put me at ease in a way that I don't know that I would have been. I was like, oh, we're equals here. You're not somebody that's a nobody who's coming to read with Ellen Lewis for Martin Scorsese. You're like somebody, we know your work and we love your work. So that was nice. And I believe I read, and then this was probably 3 or 4 years later, I got a call from my agent who said that Ellen is casting The Post that Steven Spielberg was making and The Irishman that Scorsese was making. And I was like, am I really gonna am I gonna get both of these movies and do them back to back? You know, like the classic actor, like, you know, overreach. But I got a call one morning, and I was about to leave town for something else, and my agent said, where are you going to be in New York next Thursday? And I said, yeah. And he said, no, you're not, because you have a meeting with Steven Spielberg. And I was like, oh God. Like, and then that was like a week. So it was like a week of me, you know, telling the cashier at Rite Aid that I was meeting with Spielberg, you know, and then going on to the lot, Universal lot, which, you know, where his office is, and driving up. I wasn't nervous. And then when I got there, I became incredibly nervous. And I pulled up, and you know, security guard directed me to the spot. And then I was met by, oh boy, now I feel bad. So she was the head of casting for DreamWorks. And I can't remember her name now. I feel bad, but she brought me into her office and we just had a little chat. And, you know, I found out later that that's what she usually does, because people that come there are nervous to meet him. You know, everybody of a certain age has a relationship with him in some way or another, whether we know him or not, you know? So I felt relaxed. And then they brought me up to this big conference room. And I was just sitting there alone for a while. The sled from Rosebud, you know, the Rosebud sled from Citizen Kane is on the wall in there and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And he just came in, and, you know, there's that moment of, is this really happening? It's surreal for a few minutes. He sat down and we got to talking. I mean, we talked a lot about movies. We both, you know, loved movies. And I loved and talked about his movies. We talked about that movie and the specific role that I, you know, would potentially be playing. And is her name Leslie Grossman? I think that's her name.
I think so.
Cast director. Yeah. Okay. Glad I remembered. So we had this chat for about 45 minutes, and then he had to leave. So he got up to leave, and he was getting up to leave. And I said, so if I do this movie, it'll be, you know, in May. And he said, oh, you're in the movie. I just wanted to meet you first. And I started crying again, like an idiot. And he hugged me, and he left. And I was just standing there with Leslie, and she was sort of off to the side here. And I looked at her and she said, I've seen this happen so many times.
So many times.
Yeah. It was amazing. So then I did
they tried to prep you, but
I know they did. I mean, it's just, you know, it's incredible.
But there's no
experience.
There were no sides. You didn't read for it.
No.
To me, that's like whole other level casting, right?
Yeah, it was wild. I mean, I was surprised too, but there wasn't any sides to begin with for me to read. So I was like, I didn't think that I had to prepare anything, which maybe took the pressure off a little bit because I didn't have to think about that. But I know other people in that movie that had to read, where I'm like, I'm surprised, but you know, people like that are a big deal.
There are certain directors that there are a couple of parts in each movie, be they small or big, that they definitely have in their head who they want, and just
Yeah,
have us go out and get that
and it
for
was
them.
based on a real person, and I looked enough like this person, and also which is something that's incredibly important that sometimes it has nothing to do with you. But like,
Right.
let me see this guy. Do I like him? Like, what's he like? Because I've seen some of his work, and he looks like this guy, and let me see what. And we really liked each other, and we really continued that relationship through 2 months of shooting. It was just like we chatted a lot every day about movies, and I feel badly because I had just directed a film. I directed my first feature film, which is where I was headed to premiere that at the Tribeca Festival when I first met him. And so I talked a lot about filmmaking with him, and I have this letter that he wrote me. I have it framed on my wall, but he said he wanted me to be a director. He said, you should be a filmmaker. That's really your passion. And so when you continue this day job of acting, but like, I want you to make more movies. And I haven't done that since. So I feel like I'm letting him down somehow. But like, if he feels like, I should do that, and I should do that, it's a big commitment of time directing. And I didn't feel like the rewards for what the movie did for me, for my career and all that stuff were as worth it, several years of my life. So I just haven't gone back to it, but I'd like to. But
I
yeah,
bet you'd be good at it. But you're right.
yeah,
It's
I like
it's a
doing it.
business and you got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like these experiences of, being someone who is, still movie obsessed, of working with these great people, because you have a good time, but you learn so much. I mean, you learn. And then on that film, I was with Tom Hanks, and I was with Meryl Streep, and I was with,
I mean,
just
crazy, right?
yeah, that was like a murderer's row of cast. And so even having less to do in that film was great, because I just sat and I got to be there and watch these great people
Right.
do their thing. And I learned so much.
Yeah.
Which is kind of how I felt watching you in Killers of Flower Moon. I
Oh, yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh. And I'd really be interested in the casting process that you went through on that, because I mean, you have scenes with Leo, you're in the courtroom with John Lithgow,
Everybody.
with
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser. I mean, it was just like a buffet there too, right?
Yeah.
I would really be curious, because I mean, you killed it. That was a great film.
Thank you.
It was a masterpiece. It really was. And I
Yeah, that was, something I was very proud to be a part of. The casting for that was interesting. So there was a script that Eric Roth had written, and initially Leo DiCaprio was playing the FBI agent. So the movie was more, if you've read the book Killers of the Flower Moon,
Yeah.
it's really more about the FBI investigation, because it's based on, the historical record of what, it's based on these records of this investigation and what it uncovered. And in that way, it plays out more like a mystery of discovering what was going on, what these people were doing. And then I read for it based on that script. It was like a 2-page scene at most. Ellen's associate had come out to LA to read some people right before Thanksgiving. She was out there. Her family was from there. So I read with her. I think it was myself and Johnny Knoxville. We were reading for it. That's who she was recording. And he wasn't playing the same part. It was a different part. But so I just read it. It was pretty quick. I mean, I think she probably directed me a few ways. It was like a scene where a bunch of the FBI agents are sort of breaking down what's going on. And there's a scene like that in the movie where we all kind of meet out in the oil field. But it was a really significant part. It was a big part because of the way the movie was structured. So the first thing that happened that was Thanksgiving of 2019. And around award season that year and into 2020, it was announced that that Leo was going to play Burkhart, the murderer, or the co-conspirator and husband to Lily Gladstone's character. So the script underwent radical changes, and then COVID hit, and so it was another year. But yeah, Christmas 2020, when I was at home alone, I got the call that I was going to go do the movie. And it was 5 months in Oklahoma, and starting in April of 2021. And it was I was there. I mean, it was hard to leave because of the COVID restrictions and things, and I was there primarily for what they call uh, like a rain cover. So if it rained outside, they could film these
Right.
scenes inside.
Cover
I
shots,
guess they
yeah.
didn't realize at the beginning that in Oklahoma, when it rains, it's thunder and lightning, so you can't actually shoot inside because you have to turn all the generators off and stuff. So I was just there for 3 months, uh,
Wow.
Nice time to
not
be there.
working and not even be able to go to set,
Right,
because of
right.
COVID.
Oh.
So it wasn't bad. I mean, I got rid of my apartment in LA because I was like tired of being here and I thought I would be moving anyway. But and I worked out and I had friends that were people who worked on the movie that we hung out with, other actors that were working or not working. Um, and
Well, you were in so
Jesse.
many scenes with Jesse. Yeah,
Yeah, well,
exactly.
Jesse and I met on The Post, actually. So we worked together on that and we were friends. So I hung out a lot with Jesse and this other actor, Michael Abbott Jr., who played the other FBI agent with me. And we spent a lot of time together. And it's interesting. They both had, families. They're married and have kids, and I don't. So it's like harder for them to be there during that time. But we had fun. I mean, it was so hot there. And then, after 3 months, I went to set one day and got ushered in. And again, there's the great man. And, there's about 5 minutes of, well, there he is. And then again, talking about movies, laughing. He's so good at putting you at ease. I watched him one day because there's a lot of non-actors in the film. He uses a lot non-actors a lot. And the actor was maybe he was good. He was really the character, but he was maybe a little tight, And there's several cameras. There's two cameras, maybe two cameras set up. And he, we did it once, and Marty came in and said something like, they're fixing some technical thing with the camera or whatever. And he just started talking and he started telling this long story that ended up being a joke. And it was really funny and everyone laughed. And it's like everyone was laughing. And then as soon as that was over, he went back and we did the scene again and the guy was great. And he didn't know he was being handled or,
Right.
Right. That's so great.
manipulated in any way. It's just about, and casting directors can know this too. Like, you want that person to be relaxed. You want them to succeed. Now, there are directors and casting directors who don't behave that way, and
Right.
I think they're mostly in the minority. But there's certainly people when I go in. I don't know if it's they already have their mind on who they're going to cast or what, but they essentially have their arms crossed across them, and they barely look at you, and you're like, what am I doing here?
I like to
Um,
investigate that because I feel like that was like the old school casting. Some of us, not all of us, but some of us were very, I'd hear stories of, ripping headshots and resumes right in front of the actor if it
oh, I've
wasn't
never had anything like
labeled
that, but
right.
yeah,
That's
God.
ridiculous. That's
People
No,
are
just like a
weird.
disinterest, like a strong, like, this person doesn't care that I'm here.
or it's a power play too.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. I think often in those cases, it's like they have their people that they like and their favorites, and that's who they're going to cast. And I don't know why you wouldn't be open to every possibility, but it happens. Like I said, it's the minority of the time. Like the majority of the time, casting directors are incredibly supportive and excited. And the second a director or a casting director, like what I told you about what Ellen did, is like that, you just relax and you can do your best work. And I don't know why. Yes, the set is a pressure cooker environment, but again, as somebody as great as Scorsese or Spielberg, uh, they know that they're going to get their best work out of you if you're relaxed.
It's
And
hard for
so,
some people to do. But let's move forward too. So we have all these lovely stories of back in the day before COVID.
yeah.
And in fact, I cast you in Not Alone. It was actually before COVID, but we did it. I don't even remember if I had you tape or if I just offered you. I think I just
Must
offered
have
you the
been,
part.
yeah. I had
Yeah.
met Steve and
Yeah.
Sarah previously. So yeah, probably. But it's certainly across long distance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, let's talk about that a little bit before we delve into the Zoom and the new wave of casting. Um, I remember, I mean, that was a low budget film, and I sure we got you for well below your call at the time.
Everybody does now.
That's exactly kind of where I wanted to go with that. At the if and it's like we're all not working until we're working, right? So and right now, of course, nobody's working unless you're in Europe or somewhere other than the
Yeah.
United States. But that's another thing. But but back then, you took it because it was a bird in a hand at the moment. And we were so happy to get you. And but that's casting. That's the whole thing. It's like, this
Yeah.
is how much money I have, and will you do it? And I think that's the essence of our job meets your job. What do you think?
Yeah, I just did a similarly. In fact, I probably made less on this movie that I just did. Uh, but there's
I
there's
feel good
nothing
about
going
that.
on, and it's not just like, oh, I need a job for money. Yes, I do, but I also want to work, and
Right.
work begets more work, and just working on something, even if it isn't, the greatest thing in the world, with especially in a lower budget thing, you tend to have more significant roles. So
You did.
it's
You were the
great to
lead.
do the work. You know what I mean? I like just want to be there for 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it is and do the work. As you say, like if I were a casting director, especially if like a television project or a TV series or a low budget movie, I'd want the person with the most experience because it's not just their ability, but do you know everything about a set? Do you know where the lights
It's
are?
the
Do you know where your marks are?
professionalism.
All that stuff. And the
You
day
have to
goes,
hit the ground running. Yeah.
yeah, it goes fast. The day goes fast that way. And, I was talking to somebody recently, and I want to jump ahead a little bit, digressing, but that they hired this person off tape, and the person was good, but was so nervous that their hand was shaking so perceptibly that they tried to do it and they couldn't. And then they tried to frame the hand out, but the rest of the body was vibrating. And it was just a loss, like a half a day. And then they had to hire somebody else anyway and pay that person.
Right.
So, like, it's going to cost you now or cost you later kind of thing. But that when you do something that's a low budget or television, which moves rather quickly, I mean, not so much the big budget streaming stuff of now, but like, basic network television, things like that. You got to know what you're doing. You have to, and, you have to do your job really well and know where everything is and what everything is and get it done. Try to get it done on the first or second take because you may feel like you don't do as well, but they're moving on anyway. So, because they'll take what they can get at that point.
And
But
as a casting director, I think it's hard for me to vet somebody if I don't know them and know that they've worked and know what they've done so that I
right,
can send them forward and say, I give you my good graces. This person is awesome. It's
right, or
hard.
if it's on tape, you don't
You
know the
how is it
person, and
50?
they show up and they're like a psycho, or they,
Right.
you know.
Or that was their 50th take, right?
Well, that's a big thing that I'm talking to people. It's like, oh, it must have been like their 80th take because they have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
And so,
You don't
we're
know.
in a place now, and I know I've jumped ahead where, it's always been this way, but more than ever that it's just a bean counters saying like, we got to get this person. Well, we want somebody experienced. Well, we have this much money.
Right.
Well, okay. So now I got to find the best person for that much money. Right. Or maybe it's like a time like now and not a lot of people are working and somebody like me is available and I could do it. Great. But as you were saying, like it's a juggling act. I mean, I'd like to hear from you, like what a situation like that is like, when you're, you have somebody, you have the perfect person, but you can't afford them or they're not available or,
I mean, like what you
or
just said, now it's great for us because we get these incredible actors on our board that we're like, oh, that seems wild that they do that for this money, but we're happy because I mean, literally, we milk the cow for as much as we can for you
Yeah.
guys. It has nothing to do with our paycheck. It has everything to do with, giving them the best product in the end, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we love to have just, you know, as good as we can get for the amount of money we have.
You
And
know
there's
Yeah.
what?
usually not a lot of wiggle room. Do you have a lot of wiggle room, Cheryl?
Well, no, not really, but sometimes I remember telling you right after the pandemic, I put out a breakdown for name talent
Right.
for a horror film, and I could not believe the people who submitted, the
Right.
agents who submitted, who would never talk to me
Yes.
pre-pandemic. I was gobsmacked. I was like, oh, this is so exciting, and we were able to find talent and pay them, six, seven, $8,000 for the day, fly them and put them up, which I mean, nobody was talking to us pre-pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Right. Right. It's
It was
very different.
amazing.
Now, would you consider yourself an offer only talent in general now, Pat, or whatever, whatever?
I would like to consider myself that, and in truth, it is a lot of that.
Well,
Um,
I mean, yeah,
but if
there's so much.
something's good and they're asking me to read for it, like this thing I just did, I didn't read for it. I mean, I had, met with the director a few times and all that, but yeah, I don't. I mean, I'll reveal something else. It's like I don't think that I'm necessarily the best auditioner. Like that's not when I
A
do
lot
my
of
best
actors
work.
aren't.
Yeah, and I think there are actors who are great actors who are not great at auditions, and I think there are great auditioners who are not necessarily great on set. It's a different skill set, you know.
So I
I th-
think the offer only is not in service to the project always, because I think it's like this collaboration. It's like when I'm looking at all the auditions, I get to see what this person brings, what that person brings, and I'm genuinely surprised and delighted most of the time. And
yeah,
I'm like, this is interesting. Oh, I never thought of that. And I'm sure the directors think the same thing. So I this whole offer only thing always kind of catches me by surprise, even if it's a big actor, which I know we're not going to have not that situation. But
yeah,
I'm just saying, as a casting director, it makes sense to me to see what you're doing with that character.
yeah. It's interesting. It's different. Like I've gotten things where I was like, I have done this in a million things. Like, you don't know that I could do this. Why am I reading 12 pages
Right.
of this? I have
Well,
only
12
so
pages
much
would
time in the
take a
day, and
lot.
it's a lot of work. And I
Yeah.
don't do my best work with a short amount of preparation. It's one of the reasons why I'm not as good as an auditioner. But like, then there's something like, and you can tell me if this is a trick or not, but like, it's always seemed like a trick where they go like they send you the thing and it's like a waiter and he's like, it's your beer, sir. This was something recently where I was like a waiter and it was just like, can I get you something to drink? And here's your Michelob or whatever. But it was like it said, it was a good show and it said, possible recurring. And I was like, come on. And I just
It's
didn't want to do it.
probably true.
I
I
don't
don't
want
think
to
it's a
get, but I
trick.
mean, like as the waiter, like, but here, I'll tell you the flip side of that, which was that with Better Call Saul, I read for this, which at the time was just a pair of eyes in a rearview mirror. This was season 2 or something.
You were reading
And
for eyes.
yeah, I think we had a few lines, but they wouldn't have been lines from the script, right? And I didn't get cast. This other actor, a very good actor named Don Harvey, got cast. And then they did the following season. They did a scene with him where he actually confronts Saul because he's basically found him in hiding after the whole events of Breaking Bad, and he's threatening. And then during COVID, actually, I was doing Killers of the Flower Moon, and they just called me one day and said that he can't do it. He's on another project and he can't do it. Would you like to do it? And I said, of course, you know. And it turned out to be the best job of my career. It was the most fun I've had, the best experience I've had all around. And it was, I've done a lot of movies and shows where I do great work, but no one sees it. And for 5, 10 years. And this was like a huge thing immediately. So, and that was a case where that happened. But like, sometimes I just want to say, like, I don't want to, give what's his name a beer. Like, I don't want to, like,
But
if
maybe it's like when they're shooting at that location, you would always be
you
there.
never know. Yeah.
You don't know.
Right.
I mean,
You don't know.
I think there's a lot of truth to it. I also think it can be a sales trick. I think it's both.
Yeah. It's like, you don't know if you show up and it's just like, I forget. I think it was one of the actresses from Drea de Matteo from The Sopranos who played like a hostess or something the first time at a restaurant, but they just liked her, and because she got this great role out of it. So I wouldn't say just to do that, but like depending on what mood I am, I might just say no to that.
No, I get that.
So
So how do you feel not seeing casting very much at all? What with the self tapes or even just an offer? Um, how does that feel different in your career? You're a real tactile guy. You like to talk to people.
yeah,
So how has that affected your psyche, your feeling about everything?
I'll start by saying I don't like it at all, at
Right.
all. Um,
But do
I
you hate us
suppose
for it?
no, it's not your fault. It's like everybody's cutting corners, and it's like you guys don't have offices anymore. In some cases, you don't.
Right. And
You
they won't
know,
pay for it. Yeah.
right. So I sometimes I can do good work, but so often I don't know where that good work goes in service of. If 99% of the time I never hear anything about it again. So I don't know if I did good, I did bad. I just don't know. I mean, I always feel like I did good, and I look at it and I'm happy with it. Um,
That's
but
all that matters.
the hard thing is, yeah, exactly. The only thing you can do is just show up and sort of, do what you're going to do and not do what you think they want. That's a mistake. That's not what you want, and probably not what they want. It's something that nobody wants. But
Right.
That's the greatest
it's
note.
yeah, it's the setting up. It's like I got to get this is okay. This is casual, right? But it's like, I got to frame the phone right. I got to learn the lines. I got to do lighting. I got to make sure the sound is good. I have to edit it. I have to upload it. I have to label it. I have to find somebody to read with me. And I have to have a space. And it's like,
It's a lot.
it's a lot. And I
We're
just
asking
want to
you a
be an
lot.
actor.
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to be a, technician or whatever, I would have done that. And it also is time and energy spent away from just doing the work, which if you show up, you can just do. And I do. I miss seeing people. I miss having a conversation with, somebody like, Mally Finn, may she rest in peace, or, you know, with Ellen or you or whomever. Like it is something that can lead to something else. And I don't know enough about what happens on the other side of it now. I know that they see a lot more people than they used to, which is also not necessarily beneficial. And, I know things like, follower count on social media matters in some cases and things like that. So I don't know. I don't want to be the old fart who's like, in my day, we went and met in person and, but I will tell you, and I get asked this a lot, and I always go through my IMDb to check. I have never, ever been cast off a tape if I didn't already have a relationship with the casting director, the director, the producers. Never. Not once.
No kidding.
Never.
How often are you asked to tape when you don't have a relationship?
A lot. I mean, maybe I know the casting director, but wouldn't say I have a relationship with them, but I've, certainly auditioned for them a lot over the years. But, it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot less right now. There's just less going on.
Let's
But
talk about that. Everybody asks me literally 10, 15, 20, 100 times a day, how do I get a relationship with casting? And my answer is, of course, that can only be a natural thing. And I'm not friends with actors. I am professional friends. You and I are friends.
yeah.
that kind of thing. Can you explain to our audience what the difference is so that,
Yeah.
we want to be around you and we can have a good professional relationship and it's not crossing lines? Explain that, please.
Well, when I first got to Hollywood, and it's still happening, and I came here in the late 90s, everyone talks about networking, which is this great myth of like bothering people essentially, and
It's
like,
crazy.
everyone goes like, it can't hurt. And it's like, no, it can.
It
Like
can.
if the person bothering you all the time and you're not looking for them, right?
Right.
So there's a difference between, if you're networking, my interpretation of it anyway is like showing up expressly for the purpose of, needling people for work, or, it is artificial. And every relationship that I've ever built, and we're talking about some that are longer than 30 years now. In some cases, there's people I've met who are professional people now who I went to college with, or even went to high school with. That a natural relationship, camaraderie, what's the, back and forth, like, you have a good back and forth with each other, you like each other. And then the work, that's like, they like your work, you
Your
like
work. Yes.
how they work. Like I told you, I like the way that, when I walked in, the way that Ellen, dealt with me. Or, Mally Finn was always so amazing and professional, but like, so like she had a big heart and she was always open to you. And there's so many, actors that, Michael Shannon and DiCaprio and on and on and on, whose careers were made by Mally just believing in them. And they had this. She gave him this confidence to do this work. But she just had a feel for someone, and if she did, she let her guard down with you, and you gave her your best. But you felt like she was a person that you could talk to. And so now I don't know, other than showing up at events and pestering people, or maybe it's good now that, like, they always used to say like these casting seminars or things were scams. They take your money and you show up and you audition for people, and they basically taking your money. But I think now it's like, if they're even still doing that, I don't know. It's probably a good way to meet people and develop a relationship with the casting director. I don't know.
I think casting does, like, Zoom workshops and things like that. And
Yeah.
but
SAG does
I
some stuff.
expressly, if I do anything, I'm like, you're not getting cast out of knowing me from this. That is
Yeah.
top of the list. But that
I mean,
being
I'm sure
said,
if the next Marlon Brando or Meryl Streep showed up, you'd be like, oh, wow. Well,
I mean,
that's
it's
a surprise,
obvious,
but
right? It's
yeah.
not hard what we do. You could tell talent.
Yeah.
It's and yeah, you can work on it and make it better, and I hope you all do. But yeah, you can see good talent. It's
I
a
just would tell people, because like people tell me, I don't know how to tell someone how to get started now, but I would just say study, just keep studying, like whether that's
right.
taking a class, which is good because you're meeting people too, uh, reading everything, like, going to movies, go to museums, go to concerts, read scripts, try and write, like just work. I mean, it's the only way that I guess I had an inherent talent, but it's like I've gotten good by just doing it over and over again. And I took classes well into my 40s. I just kept studying because A, I was getting better, and B, I like to act. And it was an opportunity to act when I wasn't being hired or paid to do so.
It's the
So
greatest. Did you have
there's,
I didn't read, did you have professional training prior to, like, doing workshops and so forth?
yeah, I was quite fortunate in that I went to Illinois State University in downstate Illinois. The name of the town is Normal, Illinois.
I know
And
normal.
I actually ended up going there because I wasn't a very good student. And I wanted to go to a place called DePaul University, which they have a relationship with the Goodman Theater in Chicago. And John C. Reilly went to DePaul, and some
Yeah.
people like that. But you needed to write an essay and you had to audition. And the big kicker was because, we lived so close to Chicago. I mean, we lived in the northwest suburbs. So my parents were going to make me live at home. Expressly, my mother was going to make me live at home.
Right.
So I wanted the experience of going away. But Illinois State had a one-page application, no audition. Now they have an audition. Now you have to audition to get in there. But at the time in 1989, when I started college, I didn't. And I didn't have to have great grades. So I got in there. Now, unbeknownst to me, knowing that it was a great theater program, I didn't know it was where Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago started. So this is where Joan Allen and Jeff Perry and Terry Kinney and John Malkovich and Laurie Metcalf all met. And Gary Sinise was not a student there, but with him, they formed Steppenwolf in the basement in Highland Park in the northwest suburbs where I grew up in the mid 70s. And so they offered at the time, and again, they don't offer this anymore. I guess Northwestern has it now, but they offered an internship to graduating seniors, and I got that. And because I got that, I worked there every day. I was on the stage crew. I was a production assistant. I lifted a porta potty with my other friend Kurt Reynolds, who's also an intern there that I'd gone to college with, up and down a flight of stairs at their old rehearsal space. But I was allowed to audition for all the shows. And I got cast twice as an understudy during that year. And one time I went on for Jan Barford when he didn't make the show. And then I got cast in the first show that I auditioned for post my internship, which was A Clockwork Orange in 1994.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Nick Offerman was in that production, and Paul Adelstein and Chris Bauer and lots of people who have gone on to do great things. But because I had that Steppenwolf thing, I got an agent in Chicago. Getty's agency in Chicago took me on, and I did commercials, and I did a couple of small parts in movies that were filming at least in part in Chicago. I built a resume, and Getty's had an office in LA at the time. So I don't even know if they exist as an agency at all anymore. But because they did, when I wanted to move out there, which was 5 years later, I started working, right away. Within 6 months of moving to LA I think I'd saved $10,000, but I bought a car, and I lived in a 3-bedroom house for $1,250 a month for the three of us, in Silver Lake. Now you wouldn't even get a studio for that.
Wow.
And I, within 6 months, I was working pretty regularly. Now there's ups and downs, of course, but
you were lucky. Yeah,
I was lucky.
Did the work, but you did the work.
Yeah, I don't think it's luck.
Right.
I mean,
the other person that I was doing the internship with, or other people that have done the internship, for the most part, have not, had the same career.
Not luck. It is working hard. It's
working hard. It's like
it's being good.
There are, I mentioned like a Marlon Brando or Meryl Streep or somebody, or a Julia Roberts. It's like there are people who are undeniably stars, and but it all, like, and Paul Newman always acknowledged this, like you do have to be lucky. You have to be in the right place at the right time. But the more you work, the more you are, and the longer
the more you work, the luckier you can get, for sure.
Yeah, and the more people
right.
So when I am putting in a tape, if I know the casting director and the producer and the director, my odds are greater of getting a job, because of those relationships.
Crazy the amount of names you've dropped today.
Yeah, sorry.
No. I think we started with you being the Kevin Bacon of your of you.
Yeah.
But I'm
like the Forrest Gump of Hollywood,
The Forrest, yeah.
Yeah.
Too funny. Cheryl,
but I know I've met everybody, and I've just stumbled my way through like an idiot.
You have any closing thoughts or questions before we move into our feedback session? I'm so excited.
I say this all the time, but do the work hard, be a nice person.
Nice person, most specifically, and
you could be this asshole who just steps all over everybody, and maybe you'll get somewhere, but you're much more likely to succeed by being a good person, just working hard, which can be both the same thing, by the way. Good people
Amen.
work hard for other
Yeah.
people, you know?
No question.
Yeah.
No question. And you're an example of that for sure.
Thank you.
For sure.
Your words, not mine.
Hey. No doubt. Nobody puts words in my mouth. We're clear on that. But all right, Cheryl, any last thoughts?
No, I mean, it's just been an honor to chat with you today, and I
Oh, thank you.
enjoyed your career, and I just, you know, it was very insightful to chat with you. You are a normal human being because you lived in Normal, Illinois, or wherever it
Yep.
is, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I just watched Flower Moon this weekend.
Yeah.
And so it's so fresh to me, and it just was just I was blown away when from the very opening scene, you know you're seeing something special. You know,
Yeah.
it just was wonderful, and how wonderful
Thank you.
you got to be a part of that. And I loved hearing about the process of casting for that, because it's on a whole other level from what I do, quite frankly. So,
Well, that's nice. Thank you, Cheryl.
well, thank you.
So we have this new segment. I'm calling it Casting Confidential Feedback Session segment, whatever, because I don't know, I'm not that creative, I guess. Hey, listeners, if you have a better title for this segment, let me know. All right, now that we've dug into all of Pat Healy, we're going to have Julie do a read with Pat. Pat, you've got the sides?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, good. I want you guys to go into the read, and then we'll give you some feedback, and then you'll do it again. And that'll be that. So take it away, Julie and Pat.
Okay. Pat, I have you sort of in the lower part of my screen.
Okay.
Just so you know. Okay. You scared me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
It's late. You didn't have to wait up for me.
Oh, I don't mind. Are you hungry? I can make an omelet or something.
I already ate.
How was work?
It's long, as you might have guessed.
And that's where you were?
Tonight?
You were at work.
Where else would I be?
This late?
Marcus, what do you want to know? I mean, is that what you need to know right now? I can tell you if that's what you really want, but I don't think it would matter either way, if I'm being really honest with you.
If I'm being really honest.
Ask me again. Otherwise, let's go to bed.
I'll set the downstairs alarm.
Okay.
Wow.
Nice.
Yes.
What
Good
about the
work.
upstairs alarm? There's definitely
That's a
an
whole
alarm
different story.
upstairs.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Cheryl, give some feedback.
Well, I clearly there's a dynamic going on between the two of you, that there's an elephant in the room that we're not talking about. So, and it started when you said, I've already eaten. I got that. Oh, there's definitely something up here. What's up? And then it obviously progressed more and more. I'd love to know the dynamic between the two of you. Obviously, you're husband and wife, you're in a relationship of some sort. Maybe you are having an affair. Maybe, there's a lot of like, it definitely leaves a lot to be figured out for us, the audience. So, I think it's a very interesting scene because there is so much that is not obvious to us. But well done.
No notes for Julie to reread?
I maybe you want to go a little more with the the elephant in the room, the bitchy kind of, and make it a little more crystal clear to us what is going
Okay.
on, that there is this dynamic between the two of you, that he doesn't know where you are. He doesn't know if you've eaten. What's going on here, right? So obviously there's a big issue.
Okay.
Oh, I love that. Pat, you have some notes?
Well, it's interesting because it's like what Cheryl was saying is who knows what it could be, that she's having an affair. It could be that she's planning a surprise birthday party for me. It could be that she's just at work and I'm a paranoid maniac.
Yeah.
And maybe she's very careful with what she says because she could set me off. It seems like the end of it to me is because I at least played it. I made the choice to play it like, okay, it's fine. It's all right, as opposed to like keeping the suspicion up. So maybe there's a lighter way that you can present it, but the tension of whatever it is that you're keeping inside is more underneath, like struggling to get out. You're presenting as more casual. It would be interesting
So,
anyway.
Casual and bitchy, or one or the other.
See, and then I have the third person in the room.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Too many cooks.
I kind of lean into a little bit with more. I mean, I love what Pat said. I didn't even think about that. So that's why this is great. I like it a little, like, pacing is everything to me in these short,
I would say that as well.
Right? Just really slow it down and make it really, whichever way you go with it, that's up to you. But I'd like to see it just really paced slower, and really you're thinking through whatever you're thinking, that's on you. But I just want to see it happen. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it again.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Oh, you scared me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
It's late. You didn't have to wait up.
I don't mind. Are you hungry? I could make an omelet or something.
I already ate.
How was work?
Long, as you might have guessed.
And that is where you were.
Tonight?
You were at work.
Where else would I be?
This late?
Marcus, do you really want to know? I mean, is that what you need right now? Because I can tell you, but I don't think it's going to matter much either way if I'm really being honest.
If I'm really being honest.
Ask me again. Otherwise, let's go to bed.
I'll set the downstairs alarm.
Fine.
Yeah, I felt very spanked by her that time, like really.
But actually, Pat, your choices were kind of interesting too, where you were questioning her more so in this one than you were in the last one. You were like more threatening and less enabling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the choice I guess I made was to not. I was trying to cover up my animosity last time, but try and be casual, and this time I just didn't try and hide my, suspicion and negativity. I guess.
I just want to do this all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's fun to do all day. No.
No fun.
Yeah, there's
That was
definitely
great.
something going on between you two that we would like to hear more
Yeah.
about. For sure.
And I think what you're doing is great, Julie. Like the work is great, but it's important I think probably the most important thing in audition is to be vulnerable, which doesn't just mean to let your feelings hang out, but it means that you be open to whatever is going on in that room or whatever choice the other person is making and going off of that, as opposed to being locked into choices that you've made. I think, an easy way of saying it would be like, the casting wants to give you an adjustment and see you do something differently, but you will, if you really open yourself up to, if the conditions are different, to doing it in a different way by just responding to what's going on in the room. And I think you did a good job with that.
Thank you.
This was so great.
Yeah, this was fun.
So this is the
I
first
loved
time you
it.
did this segment?
Yes.
Well, listen, pioneers.
This is
That's
it.
Rose. That's our Rose.
This is it. We're pioneers. I love it. I love it. You guys were amazing. Thanks. Big thanks to Pat and Cheryl and Julie for their thoughtful feedback and I love this little segment. Anyway, it's always so interesting to hear insights on both sides of the table. Pat, what a great conversation this was.
Thanks. I loved it too.
What?
I loved it too. Thank you for having me.
It's always good to see you, Pat. Listen, no matter what, you're an interesting guy, and I love that.
Thank you.
And I just want to remind our listeners to keep tuning in as we can continue to explore the actor casting director relationship throughout this season. There are so many more amazing conversations ahead. And thanks for listening to Casting Confidential. Catch us next time for more tales from both sides of the casting table. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Bye.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Casting Confidential. If you're loving the show, here's what you need to do. Follow us right now on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling inspired, take a minute to leave us a rating and review. It's the best way to help us grow and keep bringing you these behind-the-scenes stories. Join the conversation with us on Instagram at Casting Confidential and drop us your thoughts or questions. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep your craft sharp and your audition sharper. See you back here for another episode of Casting Confidential.
One of the greatest podcasts in television and film with Rose Rosen, CSA, and all the friends. Bringing you Casting Confidential. Casting, that's essential. Casting, so eventful. Kinda tune in to close friends, chillin' with Rose. We call it Casting Confidential. Get a notepad ready, grab a pen and pencil. For magic to jot down, tell a friend too. A wonderful podcast in TV and film, we call it Casting Confidential. Let's go.